Farming isn't a glamorous industry, but it is a process that is imperative.
And while marijuana isn't the typical crop that is grown for the dinner table, it still is a small part of a major industry in New York.
Farming can be a very difficult business. There are a lot of variables, from the weather to trade to regulations to labor, and it's important that farmers be able to have a voice in their state government, in the policies that are passed and debated at the State House in Albany.
Steve Ammerman is the manager of public affairs for the New York Farm Bureau. His hope is that if legislation moves forward with legalizing marijuana, farmers can be involved in the process.
So last year, during our state annual meeting in December, this issue came up, and there was vigorous debate on what our position should be in regards to recreational marijuana. And ultimately, our members said, if it is going to be allowed, then they should have a seat at the table in determining not only how it's grown, but also the regulations around it, and be able to take advantage of it as an agricultural crop.
Kyle Moffitt is creating a system that allows marijuana to be grown more efficiently. He says the growers hold all the cards.
They're the first to put money into it. They're the first to determine eventually how this is, what the cost is going to be consumer.
Ammerman believes because of this power, they should also have a say.
And this is an opportunity for farmers to have a seat at the table, and for New York State to pass a law that will allow farms to benefit as small businesses and to take advantage of those opportunities.
Moffitt's product creates a vertical system that allows farmers to grow at a higher rate with less energy output, lowering the price in the end.
This is insane. Why is it so expensive? Why can't it beat the black market? Now, people can talk about the taxes and things like that, and of course that contributes to it. But the fact of the matter is that what I realize is that the money that was being spent in these facilities or these retail outlets or something like that, that's where the money was going. It wasn't going towards figuring out innovation, figuring out efficiency, figuring out how to make this stuff better and for less cost.
His work is spurred by his own bad experience with buying marijuana.
Back in 2016, I became a medical patient here in Massachusetts, and which was great, and it was very novel and wonderful. And but when I had my first experience at a dispensary at that point in time, it was less than positive.
He saw things that he felt should be fixed.
I realized that those people were not being served. They were not being served very well because they were getting priced out, or it was just too onerous for them to access their medicine. And I started thinking about it in terms of like, what if this experience were a CVS? Like, it was just still medicine, right?
So Moffitt set out to fix the problem himself.
So I knew that there was a way that it wouldn't be hard to make this better. So I decided, I was like, well, I'll just try to I'll just get my own license and solve my own problem.
Farmers could benefit from his system, which grows plants vertically with fewer lights than traditional indoor growing. He says his system produces more plants with less space and energy. This is important for New York, where the plant must be grown inside because of the inconsistent climate.
In New York, wait 5 minutes, the weather will change. So I think that's going to be harder to kind of, marijuana grows, but it needs certain conditions to grow well.
Heather Trella is a researcher at the Rockefeller Institute of Government and says growing indoors requires a lot of energy.
A lot of electricity being used, whether it be the lighting or there's a lot of water that has to be pumped in. States have not traditionally been thinking about this as much.
But with outdoor growing, farmers could face problems like soil erosion. That would force companies to provide economic and environmental impact statements because the growing isn't regulated by the Environmental Protection Agency.
We don't really always know what the long-term effects of some of the things being used to grow marijuana will be. So there's a lot of movement to try to make it the most environmental friendly as possible.
Ammerman believes many of these concerns could best be addressed by the farmers themselves. That's why the New York Farm Bureau released a memo in support of the legislation that proposed legalizing the plant.
I think there was a little confusion around our position. We weren't out there beating the drum saying recreational marijuana, you should be legalized. We were simply saying, If it is going to be legalized, then farmers should play a role in how it's regulated and how it's grown in order to be taken advantage of the diversification opportunities.
Ammerman says if the recreational use of marijuana becomes legal, farmers should be able to take advantage of the demand in the state and expand what they can grow.
I mean, who else would be better at growing a crop in this state than our family farms?
Is marijuana a gateway drug? Does it help or protect against the opioid crisis in the United States?
These are two questions that will be answered coming up next.